cjhoyle. In this video I'm going to show you the trailer that I use for towing my kayak down to the water using my bicycle. So earlier this spring I bought a kayak for exploring new parts of my city along the water. One of the challenges though is that I'm car free and I live more than 5 kilometers from the water. Since I already rely on bicycles as my primary mode of transportation for getting around the city, a bicycle trailer was the perfect solution. So I hold the kayak onto the trailer using these two ratchet straps which fasten it really nice and securely. This trailer is actually one that I've had for almost 10 years, but I've made some recent modifications to it to make it so it can fit my kayak. I made a video about this trailer when I first got it back in 2011. My trailer was sold unbranded, but there's a company called Aosom which sells one that looks just like it. There are 3 modifications that I made to the trailer to adapt it to carry my kayak. First was to remove the metal structure which supported the original fabric sides of the trailer. That essentially transformed the trailer into a flat deck, but there were still these metal brackets in all 4 corners which were sticking up above the surface of the deck. When I tested my kayak directly on top of this deck, unfortunately those metal tabs stuck up far enough that they touched the kayak, and I was concerned that they might do damage to the kayak during transit. Since I might want to restore this trailer back to its original configuration in the future, I didn't want to cut off these brackets, so I added these strips of wood between the 2 brackets, which supports the kayak up above the trailer deck. I cut the strips of wood with a curvature to match the bottom of the kayak, and I held them in place using the original fasteners that came with the trailer. I also left a gap below the wooden pieces to run my ratchet straps from one side of the trailer to the other. The second modification that I made to the trailer was to the tongue. The trailer originally had this light gray piece of tubing directly attached to the trailer, but I added this darker gray extension piece in between. I bought this piece of thick-walled metal tubing from a local metal supplier, which has the same outside diameter as the original tongue piece, which means this metal tubing can easily be bolted to the existing bracket on the trailer. For joining these 2 pieces together, I was really lucky to already have some tubing which fit really nicely on the outside of these, which I was able to use to make a coupling piece. To determine how long this tongue extension needed to be, I placed the kayak on top of the trailer and I balanced it so that the center of mass was directly over top of the axle, and then I also wanted to leave a little bit of space between the front of the kayak and the back of the wheel. The trailer still uses its original hitch. First there's this strap which comes off, which is really just on there as a backup in case the hitch ever fails. Then this metal pin comes out like this from the top, and then the trailer can be removed from the bike like that. The bike that I'm using to tow this is my 1992 Iowa linear recumbent bike, but this style of hitch can work with virtually any bike. It simply attaches through the hole of the rear axle. The third and final modification that I made to this trailer was spacing the wheels further apart by making longer axles. According to the spec sheet, my kayak is 25 inches wide, and while the original wheel spacing of this trailer was almost wide enough for the kayak, it was impossible to get it centered on there without at least one of the wheels rubbing on the side of the kayak. On this side of the kayak you can see a slight round rubbing impression where the tire was rubbing up against the side of the kayak during my first test with the trailer. The same thing happened on this side of the kayak, but it was much deeper, and I've since filled in that groove with some new plastic. To prevent this from happening again, I've added an extra inch of space on either side. These wheels each attach to the trailer by a quick release mechanism. If I press on this tab here, the wheel can be removed like that. To space the wheels further apart, I created my own axle pieces, which are 1 inch longer than the originals. The axles are made from 1/2 inch cold rolled steel rod, which I bought from a local hardware store. I completed my modification to this trailer about a month and a half ago, and since then I've used it to tow this kayak for a total distance of more than 80 kilometers with no issues. When I arrive at the water each time, I've got some high security bike locks that I can use to lock up both my bike and the trailer to keep them secure while I'm out there on the water. In case you're interested, I'll also tell you a little bit about my kayak. It's a 1999 Dagger Redline, which I bought used from someone here in Toronto for $400 Canadian. It didn't come with a paddle, but it did come with a skirt. You'll notice that this kayak has a smooth bottom with no keel, and that's because this is a whitewater kayak. Now, I actually planned on using this kayak almost entirely for flat water, but the reason why I chose this one is because of its length. I live in a high-rise apartment building, and given that this kayak is only 8.5 feet long, it can fit inside the elevators in my building, which means I can store it right inside my apartment. The disadvantages of using a whitewater kayak for flat water paddling are that it's slower and harder to keep in a straight line. Neither of those things have been a concern for me so far, and I've been extremely happy with mine. When I first received the kayak, I gave it a very thorough cleaning. The previous owner had stored it outside for many years, and there was lots of leaves and other debris scattered throughout the insides of it. By removing these 3 bolts on either side, I was able to remove all the inside parts of the kayak and give everything a really thorough scrubbing. After I was finished and got everything put back together again, the kayak was so clean it was like a brand new kayak. I took it for its maiden voyage on April 24th, and I've used it every weekend since then. In the future, I plan on posting videos where I'll share some of my kayaking adventures, such as paddling around the lagoons of Ontario Place here. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this introduction video about my kayak and the method that I use to transport it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and thanks for watching.